So you may have heard about Transitions Gen S and the awesome new technology that it is. So that being the case, is Transitions XTRActive now obsolete? Why is it still here? Today on the channel, I'm going to answer one of the most common questions that I get right now in my comments section. Do I need Gen S or do I need Transitions XTRActive? What is the difference? If you've been wondering that, you're not going to want to miss this. Hello, it is your friendly neighborhood optician, Daniel Brunson, and you are on the Hicks Brunson Eyewear channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new to the channel, we talk about all things eyewear related, styles, glasses, new releases, some of our favorite indie eyewear brands like Fossa Foss and Masunaga and Tom Davies. So if you want more content like that or content on custom tinted Transitions lenses, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. All right, now today I've got a very specific topic that I want to address regarding Transitions lenses, and this is a comment that I've been getting quite frequently down in the comments section. You may have heard Transitions had a huge announcement in April of 2024. Transitions Generation S, Signature Generation S, is now out. And you may have heard how amazing it is, how fast it changes, how great the colors are. And if you're like many others, you may have been wondering, well, what about Transitions XTRActive? Is it now obsolete? Why is it still here? What is the reason for having both Transitions Signature Gen S and Transitions XTRActive? Well, we're going to talk about this today because they're two different technologies. Each one has pros and cons, and I'm going to talk about those right here. So let's start with Transitions Signature Gen S. This is the 9th installment of the Transitions Signature technology. It originally came out in the early 1990s, Transitions Signature Gen 1, and this is the flagship lens. Now Gen S, it's the flagship Transitions photochromic lens, and what I mean by that is it is the first photochromic that Transitions created, now in its 9th generation, and it serves a very important role. It's very clear indoors, and it's nice and dark outdoors in direct sunlight. That's a key phrase. We're going to come back to that in a moment. It is available in classic colors, gray, brown, graphite green. It is also available in style colors, amber, amethyst, emerald, sapphire, and the new ruby. And Transitions Signature Gen S, all of those colors, fastest one to change. So that means it's going to get to full darkness when you step into direct sunlight. Keep that phrase in mind, in direct sunlight. It will get to full darkness in about 30 seconds. And the new Gen S update is what's really amazing on fade back time. The time it takes to go from dark to clear. This happens in just under 2 minutes, which is lightning fast as photochromics go. It is a huge leap forward in technological advantage in how well your visual experience is when you're moving from bright environments to indoor, not as bright environments. It's a really good jump forward in technology and a big benefit to wearers of photochromic lenses. That's Signature Gen S. So lots of colors available. Clearest indoors, fastest times to change. Now, we're going to talk about Transitions XTRActive. It's been around since, I believe, I didn't look up the exact year, sometime in the 2000s. Transitions XTRActive. It is actually now in Generation 2. So Transitions XTRActive Gen 2 is the current generation, or next generation XTRActive as it's sometimes called. What did they make XTRActive for? Well, so some people said, well, I like the Transitions Signature lens. I like how fast it changes. But one of the things I noticed is when I'm driving, it doesn't really darken behind the windshield of the car. And there's a reason for that. Transitions Signature, you remember I kept saying in direct sunlight will darken up nicely. Well, it needs direct UV contact. Your car is filtering out most of the UV from the sun, so really your car windshield is not letting too much UV light in, plus there's really hardly ever any direct light hitting your lenses. It kind of comes down at such an angle that most of the light lands somewhere down here and not up here where your lenses are. What Transitions XTRActive is capable of doing is it's capable of darkening not only with UV light and direct sunlight, but also with indirect visible light, and there's a lot of light reflecting off of the areas down here back up at you, off of your dashboard back up at you. XTRActive is more sensitive to both UV and visible light, so that means it can darken somewhat behind the windshield. Now, it's not going to get as dark as it will in full sun. It can get somewhere between a category 1 and a category 2, depending on different types of conditions, how bright, how intense is the visible light coming in through the windshield, but it can get to a category 2 behind the windshield, which no other photochromic can really do. So that's one of Transitions XTRActive's big benefits. The second benefit is, here's what happens with photochromic lenses. They're not only affected by the UV light, that makes them darken, but the temperature also has an impact on them. So what that means is, if it's colder than about 70 degrees, 60 degrees, those molecules that change and turn into the dark position, they just have an easier time getting into the dark position and kind of staying there. When it's warmer than about 70, 75 degrees, they sort of have a harder time staying in the dark position. They want to keep going back to the clear position. And when they're warmer, they want to slip back into that clear position a little more easily. So translation, warmer weather, transition signature, and pretty much all photochromic lenses don't get as dark as they do in cooler weather, cooler temperatures. So XTRActive technology was built to overcome that. So that means XTRActive transitions works better in warmer weather, and it is the only one that will darken behind the windshield. Well, that sounds pretty great. You may be asking, why wouldn't I just always want Transitions XTRActive? Well, the cost of having a lens that can get darker and can darken more easily in warmer weather and can darken by visible light is, it is slower to fade back to clear. So when you come back inside, Transitions XTRActive may take several minutes longer to fade back to full clear, where Gen S is lightning fast coming back to clear. So you want to ask yourself, do you want the lens that darkens better in warmer weather, darkens somewhat behind the windshield, or do you want the lens that won't darken as well in warmer weather? It'll darken, don't get me wrong, just not as well, and it will not darken behind the windshield. But when you come from outside to inside, it will fade back to clear much, much faster. We're talking minutes faster here. So which is more important to you? For me, most of the time, I kind of like the Transitions XTRActive. I've never been bothered by waiting a few more minutes for it to fade back to clear. Personally, I hardly notice it's happening, but I know some of you, this is something that you really are concerned with and you wish it was faster, so the new Gen S is a great benefit there. So it might turn out that you want one of each. You might want the Transitions Gen S for most of your daily life, but if you're going to be spending a lot of time on the weekends outdoors or driving around a lot more, you might want a pair of Transitions XTRActive lenses for that case. So those are the two technologies. Those are why they're both still very much needed. Little bit of one thing I didn't mention, the colors available. I said on the Gen S, there's quite a few colors, the most options in colors. In Transitions XTRActive, there are 3 colors, gray and brown and graphite green in most cases. So a little more limited on color availability on Transitions XTRActive. But other than that, those are your choices. They are 2 technologies that serve 2 different purposes. I personally wear a little bit of both because I feel like there's sometimes benefits to one, sometimes benefits to the other. And as long as the restraints of the physics of how photochromic molecules work and speeds and temperatures and UV light and visible light, the development scientists have certain constraints that they're working with. So it just kind of turns out that we have 2 really nice products, and one for one need and another for another need. Which one works best for you? What are your thoughts on this? Which one do you prefer? Have you worn both Signature Gen S and Transitions XTRActive? And what are your feelings on pros and cons of each? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And for all of you that have had this question, I hope this answers it in full. Let me know if you have any other questions. I love interacting with all of you in the comments down there. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.